to the video. Now, the images that you've just been looking at are a very, very high, rough and aggressive River Erewash. What I've come down to do, I'm at the site of the old Bennerley Ironworks and the coal processing plant, just to see exactly if this river has burst its banks at all. There are places such as Rotherham and Sheffield which are getting it pretty bad right now, and they're not that far away from me. You know, they're pretty local in terms of a lot of other places that are suffering right now. As you can see right now, this is not affected whatsoever. It's bone dry, but it is raised, it's high. So you've got to think, when this place was built, it would have been built high enough to withstand flooding from the river and getting into the ironworks, into the coal plant, and even the railway would be raised above. So there's Bennerley Viaduct over there. Been here a few times. So I'm going to set the drone up and have a little look around. Yeah, that was very different to the last time we saw it. I'll be sure to put a bit of footage on from what it was like when we came back in July this year. So I'm going to head off now and see what other points we can look at and see what impact it's had on the surrounding area. So I'm now just off Potter's Lock, off the Erewash Canal, and this is where the river goes under the Erewash. Now it's usually a good 4-5 feet lower than this. You can see it's flooded just here. The railway's completely safe. It would need to go about another 3 foot to affect that. But that is pretty atrocious back there. Let's go a bit further along, see how else it is. So back on the Erewash Canal now, and we go a bit further down to the point where the Gallows Inn pub is and the Gallows playing fields, and head off just round the back of Trowell towards Stanton. So we've been past the Gallows Inn pub, Gallows Lock, and also the playing fields at Gallows. Now the river is very high there, but it has got embankments there, so it stops it going over. For anyone that watched the last Erewash Canal video, it was part 2. Remember, this section had all that white gungy gooey floaty stuff in it, and it looked pretty polluted. Pleased to say, it looks like it's all cleared up now. Looks crystal clear. Well, the water isn't, but you know what I mean, it's clean. Okay, usually just here, there's a footpath and a bridge that crosses the river. It's not very wide, but the river's come around and it's flooded this side of the canal, so the bridge is just out of sight about 100 metres away over there. You can see over there, it's impassable. I have to say, I am enjoying the colours down here today on the actual canal. Beautiful, golden greens, browns, lovely. So we've got the canal just there, the next lock's just down there. This is usually dry land, but it's all submerged, look, all of it. Seems worse at this end than perhaps the section in between Ilkeston and Gallows lock. So another diversion off the canal. We're coming up to the Erewash Valley line, just behind Trowell. Trowell Junction is that way, Stanton and Towton is that way. And another notorious spot that often floods is what's known locally as the Boards. And this is a bunch of fields which cattle usually reside in. And it's right next to a sewage works as well. Now this is notorious for flooding. So that is not a river. That is a field which heads on down towards the Nutbrook, towards the M1, and it is submerged and it's flowing. So after seeing that, I know I'm not going to be able to walk through the fields and up to the village of Trowell. So there's what we've just been looking at. And again, this is not a river. This isn't a river. So this here, this is the footpath. Now this embankment is about 4 foot deep, so it just shows you how far down it curves down just there, and it goes to such a low level. I haven't seen it like this since around about 2000. This is phenomenal. It's just a gigantic flowing lake. So they're not normally down here, that's a cross-country service heading north. So you've got to assume that there are issues over on the Derby side, you know, between Sheffield and Derby. And they're diverting around the Erewash Valley line through Claycross to Chesterfield. So again, luckily for me, this isn't the way I intended on going. That is seriously deep, and that is a footpath heading off towards Stapleford. So it's back to the Erewash Canal again, and we'll continue on through Sandiacre, and we'll have a look at the bit between Sandiacre and Long Eaton. So just on the edges of Towton Depot, the railway depot, there's a few signs of big puddles, but the river hasn't appeared to have burst its banks. Right, so over there we've got Towton Railway Yard. You can just make out, I think it's a 60099, the one in Tata Steel livery. So we're going to walk this path now and head towards Long Eaton. So it is pretty dark right now, but we're getting close to the river again. So it's all flooded there, and the embankment is keeping us safely away from it. This embankment could take a hell of a lot of flooding, more than it is now, to be honest. Again, you can see down there what was once a part of a field, it's just completely submerged. So we're pretty much at the end of this little exploration of the river in flood. You used to be able to, you probably still can, walk through Towton Yard that way before they started putting the gates up. So I think the last bit we're going to see is the bridge before we get into Long Eaton. So now on the outskirts of Long Eaton, it's as far as we're going to go today. We're losing the light, getting hungry, and it's probably going to be bedtime soon. So enjoy this little insight into the Erewash flood and the little sections along it which have been affected. I'll see you next week in the next video. Take care, bye bye.